All right, so call the meeting and establish a quorum, and I guess we have one person who is participating remotely. Is that correct? Or are
We do
I
not.
believe that
We do
has gone by the wayside.
Okay, all right, so Steve's not even participating?
Right.
Okay, all right. I don't have to remember what it is we have to do. So matters from the public. Do we have any? Nobody. Nobody here. All right, great. Moving right along. So approval of the minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes? All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. Financials report.
So there has been no change since last month. We are looking at a total economic opportunity fund of 1.4 million.
So one thing, I was just curious, and I'm sure this has been this way, I just didn't. So the appropriation and revenue, how is, assuming. So what's the difference between appropriation and expenditures in revenue? How is,
That is an excellent question.
So the appropriation column is what is established in the budget planning process.
so that's really a budget.
Right, that is the budget
And the
appropriation.
expenditure is what's actually.
And the expenditures is what's actually been in or out of the account, correct?
Okay.
And I will again reinforce that Liz has taken over the management analyst position and the roles with any kind of financial implications and is
They're saying
working
I
with
should be looking-
Liz gets to handle all of her questions now.
Okay.
But they are working with budget to come up with a more comprehensive, just a streamlined plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a
All
little
right.
bit more
Yes.
easy to digest.
Yes.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right,
Russ.
any other questions on the financials? Hearing none, on to new business, and the first item of new business is a closed session on Project Lightyear, so I think we need a motion to go into closed session. So I will make the motion. I move that the Albemarle County Economic Development Authority go into a closed meeting is authorized by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, section 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia, under subsection 6, to discuss and consider the investment of public funds to support Project Lightyear. Where bargaining is involved and where, if made public initially, would adversely affect the financial interests of the EDA in Albemarle County. And subsection 39, to discuss and consider information subject to the exclusion in subdivision 3 of section 2.2-3705.6 related to economic development, to wit, proprietary information that Project Lightyear voluntarily provided pursuant to the EDA's promise of confidentiality and that the EDA will use for business, trade, and development. Is there a second? That's a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, let's move into closed session. Maybe council. Okay, so I move that the EDA certify by recorded vote that to the best of each director's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorizing the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. So can we have a roll call vote?
Is there a second?
Second. Yeah, yes.
Director Long,
Aye.
see, Director Matola,
Aye.
Director Moore.
Aye.
Dr. Johnson.
Aye.
Dr. Thorne.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, thank you all very much. Allison, you're welcome to stay, or you're welcome to leave. Oh, my bad.
Oh, we haven't.
We haven't actually done anything yet.
Stand here every time I did that on purpose and not by accident, so you can have a seat. See, I'm so excited, guys.
Not yet.
We haven't voted yet.
Yeah.
She jumped the gun.
I did, but I bet, guess what's gonna happen?
All right, is there a motion?
I move the authority to adopt the resolution subject to the terms of this resolution and the resulting agreements, and to authorize this authority's chair and secretary treasurer to execute all documents necessary to complete this grant.
Second. All right,
Roll call.
Yep.
Director Long,
aye.
Director Morris,
Aye.
Director Matola.
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
and Director Thorne.
Aye.
Motion carries.
No.
No. We can do it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I just, interestingly, she just reached out like off the website to us and staff picked up and ran with it and all works out.
Well, thank you for getting in touch with us. I told them out in the hallway, the reason I'm so excited is my grandfather was a beekeeper, so this is very exciting.
All right, so, next on the agenda is review and update of 2017 memorandum of understanding between the Board of Supervisors and the EDA.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Part of the materials that were distributed for the meeting this afternoon was a copy of the 2017 MOU between the Board of Supervisors and the Economic Development Authority. Back in February, we talked about a desire to update this document, but we didn't really go into details about how we wish to update it. And so this is a part of staff's effort to prepare for the joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors in August. And I thought I would start by just touching on an overview of what was included back in 2017. So our previous liaison to the from the EDA to the Board of Supervisors, Diantha McKeel, was the chair of the board back in 2017. And so she and Rod Gentry, the former chair, signed this agreement. And what's included are a lot of strategies from our 2015 comprehensive plan. So if you were to look at some of the citations about the different ED strategies that are listed under number 1, that's from the 2015 comprehensive plan. But there's language throughout that gives us guidance on headed in the direction we're going in, that basically says, once the board adopted Project Enable at the end of 2018, we would take a hard look at updating this MOU. And so that was quite a while ago, and we never got around to updating the MOU, but that's something we'd like to take care of at the joint meeting in August. And so Project Enable itself, the last bullet here on the slide talks about working with the Board of Supervisors to clarify the EDA's role and create some specific goals. So the way we would like to do that is to remove those outdated policies and references to old strategies and have an updated MOU explicitly define what the EDA's role is. That would be helpful to not only the public, but certainly to staff and the EDA as well, as we move forward in implementing the county strategy. We wanted to recognize all the good work that the EDA is already doing in terms of reviewing and approving all the things that you see on the screen here. I think some of the biggest value that our EDA has given us has been helping us develop and administer all the public-private partnerships that we've developed since the adoption of Project Enable. Those have been agreement-heavy, legal-heavy, financial acumen-heavy efforts that we've relied not only on other county departments, but on the EDA to help us navigate. And so I would love for the new MOU to direct the EDA to continue doing that. We sort of got a refresher on what that experience is like with Project Hornet and trying to assist on that project. The other thing we would like to see in the updated version would be acknowledgement of the EDA special powers under state code, specifically as it relates to land ownership. And so the Board of Supervisors tomorrow will get an update on Rivanna Futures. That's the county's acquisition of 462 acres. A lot of the discussions that we've been having internally revolve around powers that are expressly lie with the EDA, but we don't currently have any policy document that cites that. And so updating this MOU would be a great first step in memorializing that intent and giving staff direction on how the EDA can play that role for that project, as well as other projects that may come before the EDA in the future. And so I wanted to run through those topics and see, we may not be prepared for a discussion today, but I would be interested in the EDA's feedback on what you might like to see in an MOU with the Board of Supervisors. What staff will do is take your feedback either today up through the next meeting in May, and we'll use that to talk to the Board of Supervisors ahead of that August meeting. So the goal would be that we could have some dialogue back and forth through staff before we go to that joint meeting in August and hopefully adopt an updated MOU at that point. One of the things that was not listed on the prior screen talked about something that a lot of EDAs focus on, which is revenue producing opportunities. What are some things that EDAs can do to produce revenue that they can leverage into other projects? Occasionally, we've talked about loan programs that the EDA could do, which some other EDAs around the state do. So that's something we could consider adding that wasn't listed on the prior screen. But I'll pause there and just see if there's anything that staff would like to add.
It is, especially in the southeast of the United States, it's not uncommon for an EDA to own property. And in some cases, a non-for-profit EDA will accept property from a developer for various reasons. And what happens is, if done right, the property can be used as an incentive to encourage economic development for a particular project, and use the EDA or the private non-for-profit as a streamlining tool to do things faster, more efficiently than potentially a government structure. So, and then in the long run, you finance the project, let's say with the bank, but over a series of time, you have a debt service coverage covering the note, but you also have a payoff in the end, which will generate more revenue for economic development, which will relieve the taxpayers of additional funding. So, for example, there is a small EDO in Arizona that actually, of a community of 45,000 people, took on that concept. And today they have a $2.8 million budget, which is more than the size of Tucson's budget. So, and that's through the ownership of property. So it's not uncommon. It's something that I think that we have the expertise to do that here with the EDO. And I think we've already started collecting some of the language around other EDAs around Virginia to make sure that we don't overstep into laws that would question something. So yeah, I think that JT is right on target by, hey, let's clean this up. It's time for us to grow up a little bit further, and and it lays out a great foundation for the discussions with the Board of Supervisors to ensure that we're online with our roles and responsibilities and what changes need to be made to redirect that's reflective of Project Enable. So it's, there's just some particular, for example, studies. I've been talking to JT about some particular studies that we haven't done in the past that would help support Project Enable. And I think we should have it defined in there that we as EDA are, you know, the board wants us to fund those kind of studies, that wants us to go in those kind of directions, but just detail it out a bit. But not to a point of it restricts us.
Thanks, Barry.
Everybody's nodding?
Yep, sounds good. Are there other comments from the EDA?
One, I hadn't seen this document before, and in number 1L, thought it was really useful that the EDA and the board of supervisors agreed on a few priorities and specifically arranged them in order. Because it talks about, you know, well, maybe they weren't in order, but anyway, the 5, because Project Enable is this huge umbrella, and you can stick almost any function in the county under it, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not complaining about that. It's just, as a tool for a member joining the board, for instance, it just felt like, well, we can do kind of anything, but what's the focus? And I really liked this exercise on the part of the two boards coming together and saying, these are what we want to focus on. And just for the record, I'd point out, I'm very passionate about number 3, the workforce development. We haven't done a whole lot of work with that, but that was on the original list dating back to 2017. I'd like to see that continue. I think there's a lot of opportunities around that because I'm very partial to the people who are already in the county, and I'm happy to bring in, you know, to play my part as a director on the board to bring in companies that can succeed in the county. No, I'm not opposed to any of that. There's people already here who could benefit from our support, and that's a really important for me.
It's great feedback. Thank you. I think other directors have echoed those sentiments too over time.
And one thing we talked about at our last meeting is, I think, you know, trying to also further define when the board appropriates money to give some definition about where they want us to do or how much the EDA has in terms of making a decision with what to do with the money. So we can try to eliminate it in the cases where it's not necessary, where the board has to act and we have to act, the back and forth, and say, okay, within this, you know, we're going to give you this money and you guys make a decision with it, as opposed to, you know, it can be as much or as little, and they can define those parameters for what this entity can do. And then other things, obviously bigger projects, the board's going to really need to say, we're going to give you this money to do this particular thing. And I think we can deal with that, some of that in the MOU. Any other comments or questions? Anything from your perspective about what you think the board would be looking for, or?
As far as what the board should be looking for, I think from what I've seen on my short time here, I like the direction you're heading in. I like what you do. I think the idea of revisiting the MOU is a good thing. And to, you know, let the board know this is what we like to do, or this is what we'd like your support when doing, and then ask you, you know, seeing if the board has any priorities, or what priorities we have. I do know, and I'm not sure if some of our priorities would not fit in with some of your priorities. And I'm talking specifically, we have a big thing with affordable housing. Well, I'm not sure that's something that you all want to get into. That's huge. But economically, what can we do to help small businesses, help, especially with Rivanna Futures coming in? That's going to be big. It's gonna be huge, so I can see you all being a really important part of that. Of that.
Yeah.
That's my thinking.
In a
so.
lot of different ways.
Pardon?
In a lot of
In
different
a
ways.
lot of different ways, absolutely. And you all, I think, can come up with things that, we haven't thought of. So, and how you can help. It's we're not focused, I mean, we are focused on it. But the details.
Right.
You all can do a lot. So I think it's time to revisit things because things do change. It's one thing we do know, nothing remains static, so keeping up with it.
Thanks. Anything else? Okay. All right, staff report. Barry?
Yeah, I mentioned last meeting that I was heading to Huntsville to attend the AUS, the Association of the United States Army. And there we took a update to Ravenna stations and where we're presently at with Ravenna. Met with over a dozen companies, some of which were are already here, like Northrop Grumman, CACI, and et cetera. Some new ones that are in the intelligence business. Really good feedback, a lot of follow-up I still have to do. But so that we are doing outreach to raise awareness in the private and the public sector. I did meet with two organizations within the DoD, also updated them. Last week, Trevor and I attended the Association of Defense Communities. What was important about that particular conference, it's where the discussion of DoD federal grants is presented, both in obtaining them, justification of those grants, and managing those grants. There's about a dozen different grant programs within the Department of Defense that allocates funding for planning, construction, infrastructure, everything that's centered around supporting the missions of the Department of Defense. So even the DoD agency reminded Trevor and I, make sure you look at these programs not as an economic development project, but as a value of what we're doing to support the mission of the military installation and its soldiers and its families.
Are they looking at having basically government-run housing? Are they looking at going and basically everybody, we would say, post housing, or we'd say on the economy?
Not really, it's not, there is funding that could qualify for housing but that's traditionally for military installations that has housing already. That it's an upgrade to those. But the type of programs we're focused on is some of the planning grants. For example, Trevor, you want to tell them about the
Emergency management.
Yeah.
The funding, my understanding of it is primarily around like base and installation resiliency. So resiliency can be many forms, from emergency management and response to water, sewer, electrical grid, road redundant roads, things like that. And so that's the focus of the funding. To Barry's point, it's not assessed via economic development potential, really. It's around the needs and supporting that installation. Now, if we build that road out, which is really important to that function up 29 North, that also helps us with the work we want to do on expansion and economic development. It's just not a criteria. And so our focus is around really supporting that.
Yeah, and so there's multiple programs that we could potentially qualify for. And some grants are $50,000, some of them are 13, 15, even larger. So depending on the program, it depends on, and like we were talking yesterday, some programs are competitive in nature on the bigger dollar amounts. Some are not. So Sorry, I didn't mean to take that much time, JT, on,
You're great.
but my point is, it's directly in support of our goals with Ravenna Station.
I apologize because I should know better about Ravenna Station. That is not just one road in, one road out.
Currently, it is.
Currently it is.
Okay, so we build a road that gives them access through multiple points. That's a type of plan.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. That's what I thought we were doing.
And preliminary estimates of that road extension is $40 million. So it's not trivial. So it's grade and water crossing and intersection improvements, things like that. We're also talking to the state and looking at funding opportunities for the state.
Are we talking to Dominion about transmission lines and that sort of thing yet?
It's not yet with Dominion. It's served by Rappahannock,
Okay.
but Dominion would come in from the south, and I think there's interest certainly from installation to have dual power.
Right, that makes sense.
Just to add to that, the comprehensive plan has long called for the extension. That's Boulders Road that serves the current installation. Called Boulders Road from all the rock that had to be taken out.
Explain the $40 million.
And so that loops back to 29 at the intersection with Austin Drive, right across the street. So Emerson Electric and that whole campus that used to be GE, it's that light. And the road would currently go through the old fortune teller's house on 29 North, if you're familiar with
I have
that.
to figure out a better way to refer to that.
Yeah, the county,
Everybody seems to know what that is.
Everybody knows where that is.
The right one.
We got the bamboo house and.
Yeah.
well, Liz, would you like to do a Piedmont pitch recap, maybe with
Sure.
Chair Long?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, our Ashley was ill on the night of the Piedmont pitch. She put in a lot of work leading up to it, and I got to kind of steal her thunder. But I was able to co-MC the event this year, and yes, our own Chair Long was there as a judge this year. Did a great job. And it was really fantastic for me. It was the first time I was able to attend the event, and it was wonderful to see a lot of the partner organizations that we support and work with get to see their work and really get to see from start to finish these participants that go through this 8-week sort of intensive training program, how they grow from when they walk in the door to final night of pitching. So thank you again to Chair Long for being one of our judges. And as you can see, we had the two winners of the night were Albemarle County businesses.
There were actually more finalists from Albemarle County in the pitch competition than last year.
Yes.
In the state, so we are bringing those entrepreneurs up.
Yes, and thank you, Ashley. Is there anything that you would like to add?
No, yeah, that was, I just thank you very much for taking over that at the last minutes of teamwork.
Liz did a great job co-emceeing. I think it was, I was very impressed by all of the pitches, having seen a lot of these things being involved in the Charlottesville Angel Network. I'd say across the board, they did good. I mean, businesses in various stages, but they generally did a really good job across the board. I was impressed. It was hard decision making, but I think it was a really good program.
Yes, I think they stated that they had probably the best pitches they have experienced so far. So it was really impressive.
And I think the other, talking about the sort of partner organizations that going on, sort of tying into that is I think we're with Venture Central and Community Investment Collaborative and all those organizations. I think we're coming to a point where we're going to, need to be looking at what our investments are going to be in those groups to support the entrepreneurial ecosystem that as we work on various pieces. I think that's one of the pieces that we're, if we want to encourage the growth of these businesses here in town, then I think we're going to have to invest in some of the infrastructure to have these places, incubators and accelerators and those kinds of things in town in order to build that end of the spectrum. It's exciting to, in a meeting like this, to go where we're supporting the smaller businesses, we're, hearing about bigger projects that we're able to do, and even sort of these in between. I think that's really important.
All right, well, the next bullet on our slide here talks about the comprehensive economic development strategy, and this is really for all of our viewers online right now who are listening to the meeting, as well as the directors here, an encouragement to provide comments to the TJPDC about this strategy. This, they are accepting comments up until April 27th. I know that many of you own and operate your own businesses or know people who do. But this is the strategy that will be used for some of those federal grants that Barry was talking about, as well as many other state-directed funding mechanisms. So the consultant that the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission has used, Camoin and Associates, they've done a tremendous amount of serious analysis. And I think it's worth your time to check out the webpage. And if you're able to provide comments on what they've drafted, that would be great. Didn't want that opportunity to pass by without mentioning it to the EDA. So Liz, do you want to talk about the wine study?
Hang on just a second. By the way, some of the information that you'll find on the sets can be directly used to help support the update to the project. There's some data in there that I've been asking for, and suddenly I didn't realize that it's to be found in this SED study with this organization. So you'll find some of the data in there pretty interesting. There's a SWOT analysis. There's some commute numbers that I kind of question, but overall, it's really good information.
Could we get an email with the link to that?
Yeah.
Sent out to everybody? just so
Absolutely.
they can find it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I didn't mean to jump in front of you.
That's all right. I was gonna say, I'm gonna jump back to the Go Virginia Wine Study update. And I think as most of you will remember, I think most were involved, back in September of just last year, 2023, the EDA passed the resolution to provide matching funds in support of the Go Virginia Wine Planning Grant, which was in the amount of $20,000. And so we just wanted to provide a brief update that we received recently. And as a reminder, also the purpose of this project that is funded by the grant, we are in need of regional specific data in the wine industry. State data exists, but not a lot of regional data does. And so I will refer you've all found it, to the handout here. This is from the advisory board meeting that just occurred in March. And it will show you in detail what they're going to be doing is data collection via surveys with regional wineries and vineyards, as well as they will be conducting meetings with industry experts. And the last, if I could fully draw your attention to the last slide there, the projected timeline, that gives you an idea of from start to finish what that will look like. It looks like the report is to be submitted October 1st. And it gives you various dates for the survey part. These advisory board meetings are going to be happening monthly, and those involve Central Virginia Partnership for Economic Development, Go Virginia staff, localities that are involved. And I wanted to highlight, we were talking about this earlier, but our Go Virginia Region 9 that we are a part of, 58% of the 2024 Virginia Governor's Cup case winners are from our region.
Oh,
So
wow.
I thought that was very impressive and
Say
shows
that fast.
just exactly. Thank you. Had to read that one, but I thought that was a great statistic to share because and to show the importance of this project. So thank you very much for the support on it, and we'll continue to update as it proceeds.
Are we gonna be able to pull data out that
is specific to the Monticello AVA. So this is kind of getting into the weeds with wine, right? So American the cultural area. So the Monticello area has its own. And as Ashley was talking about with honey, Monticello AVA is a premium product. The wines that come out of here are a premium product over a wine that is labeled Virginia wine. And so there's some overlap, but it does extend outside of the Virginia Region 9. But it's a lot of Albemarle County, almost all of Albemarle County, I believe, is in the AVA. And so if we can pull some of that data out, then they give us some more specifics we can work with and we can drive it. Oh, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to mention that we know that in 2023 that this area, we won according to Wine Enthusiast Magazine, we won the wine region of the world, which in other countries were also included in this. We won, so who would have thought, but we did it. So
Yeah.
we got it's really taking off. The wine
Well,
industry.
Dedicated myself to experiment. with some-
That is so selfless of you.
I'm all in on this. kid.
Somebody checking his receipts.
Uh-huh, yeah. And so, I mean, that is really, really a good thing for us. It's really exploding a lot. We're getting a lot of press on that through, I'm on the CACVB, the Visitors Bureau, so it's really very nice, yes. And I will say that the ones in the Keswick area, there were 4 vineyards in the Keswick area where during, I think it was February and March, so when it's slow, they had wine tasting, I think it was $56. You get 4 wine tastings at each one of the vineyards, a wine tasting, so, you know, so there were a lot, because in the name of EDA, I participated. Yes, exactly, that's what I was trying to think. I participated and it was really worth it, really nice. But very good price for all those wine tastings at 4 different vineyards.
Director Storm, I don't know the direct answer to your question, but I know that the Monticello AVA was a part of the previous study that this is building off of, so I fully expect it is, but I don't know specifically.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Well, I think just real quickly, if we didn't mention this, the Board of Supervisors will get a full update on Rivanna Futures at their meeting tomorrow, and we'll have information to share with the EDA after the Board of Supervisors gets their update on the Rivanna Futures project specifically. So I'll move us forward to unfinished business, which Richie, I believe there's a topic you'd like to share with us.
It's not as exciting as anything we've touched on today. This is kind of, you might need wine to listen to this. So this is just kind of the nuts and bolts and things that operationally we've been doing for a number of years without coming to this board. But finance and budget, Lauren Andrake, she worked with me in order to organize and to obtain the liability insurance that covers the directors and this body. And it's been invisible for a number of years. But Laura did ask that I come to you and ask for your approval to endorse requests for proposals and proposals for liability insurance. I will say that we've had standard liability coverages through the BACOR. The BACOR, Virginia Association of Counties Group, is a self-insurance pool with local governments for counties throughout Virginia. And we've had the same insurance coverages for a number of years. So really what we're looking for is just for a motion approving or allowing me to endorse the request for proposals, the renewal proposals, and the proposals in the final binder on your behalf. I will say if there's anything, and there's nothing that has ever been out of the ordinary, the coverages have been standard over the years. If something is out of the ordinary, then I'm not gonna proceed. I'll work with finance and budget. I also want to emphasize that the county, along with other authorities, has been picking up the cost of the premiums. It's not something that comes out of our pocket. So I will work with finance and budget if you authorize me to do that. Otherwise, it'll be slow and painful.
Is there a motion? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Or is there any further discussion? Sure. All right, all right, all in favor? Aye. All right,
Thank you.
you're so authorized.
Thank you. I'll stay the course.
All right, any other business? All right, next meeting is May 21. All right, thanks, everybody.
I'm not sure I can make that one. What do I do in advance? Just send it in.
And I'm gonna be remote for that meeting.